You're listening to Your Rivers Are Wrong, the podcast. My name is Merle. I'm here with my good friend Dante, and we're here to build worlds and tell their stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Good morning, or evening, or afternoon, whenever you may be. Welcome back to the Your Rivers Are Wrong podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Dante.
And I'm the other host, and my name is Merle.
And we're here, as we are every week, to talk about the wonderful whimsies of world building, the arts and aesthetics of setting up a setting and telling stories born from it.
Exactly.
We're here, and I think I woke up today not remembering what episode we were up to. I think it's 24. 24 seems right.
Is it 24? Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
24
That sounds fair.
Right.
Tune in as we try to understand what our podcast is.
Yeah, definitely a bit of
Classic.
a bit of an offbeat morning, specifically for me.
Oh, yeah? How come?
Yeah, I stayed up running a session of D&D, and this one was particularly interesting because I had a whole lot of things I was trying out. It was like an experimental first session for a very short campaign.
Oh, that's pretty cool, though. Did it work out the way you wanted to?
Things did and things didn't. It was kind of tricky. Well, actually, this is coming out after my players realize what the session is. It was a little bit of a twist where the characters the players submit their character sheets, and then I kind of, how do I even explain this? I take their character sheets, and without telling them, I basically erase everything that makes them unique and leave them that's
a unique game
which doesn't sound fun, but let me get to it.
Okay, sure. I'm here for it. Let's pin this down.
Yeah, they basically start the campaign as a small mote of light, and they are put into the situation where they've entirely lost their identity and are trying to regain it. They slowly pick up bits and pieces around to empower them and give them, like, they've lost all of their stats, everything exciting about them, and they slowly pick it up as they walk. And they pick up different pieces of hopefully themselves, but also parts of some other people.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they slowly like a
sort of recollection of memories and stuff.
Exactly that. Yeah. The goal is that they stumble across their own memories and they have to relive very poignant parts of their history, as well as live through poignant parts of the memories of the people around them. It's a very tricky little situation, and I'm trying a whole lot of new things. There's a lot of bells and whistles I'm playing around with. And I ran the first session last night. It was good, but definitely a couple of things that I can tweak and fix and adjust so that everybody's having fun and they're not stumbling around like, I can't see, I can't do anything.
What's going on?
Where do I go? What do I do? Yeah, it's a very
it's a very
balance.
tricky concept, but I feel like, that makes sense though, like that there's still a lot of like kinks and stuff in between, but that's also fine because it's pretty abstract. So that wouldn't surprise me that it would go perfectly the first time.
Yeah.
But it sounds pretty cool. Like it sounds like a solid start. That's pretty awesome.
It's definitely a ride, and we'll see where it goes from here. Actually, the players that I'm playing with I've known for like a year and a half, 2 years. So like they trust me with experimental ideas.
Good. That's good. Yeah,
that's
fun.
Exactly.
Then you can try out weird shit like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so that's what I've been working on. It's been a bit of a weekend trying to piece that all together.
I was gonna say, like, that sounds like some solid prep that you need to do.
It's more than I usually do. So I'm working through it.
Makes sense.
How about you? How's your week been?
I also had a pretty good weekend. I think since, when did that start? Like January, February-ish. I'm part of a sort of half-year musical project, which is super fun. I'm in the ensemble of the Evita musical production that's being produced here locally, so that's super fun. And last weekend, we had a weekend full of rehearsals. So I was dancing and staging and singing all weekend. And the Saturday was like 32 degrees or something Celsius, which is very, very warm for this time of year and for like Holland in general. So we were sweating like maniacs and dancing. And we were like, what? And like, are we okay? And then the second day was classic Holland weather pattern, was like rain, and it was like 16 degrees or something. And we were like, okay. But it was very fun. It's quite a large group. I think it's like 45 people or something. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty large. Originally, we were going to split it, but then due to like sort of practical reasons, it's better to have like one full ensemble than like split it up half and then have to do the rehearsals constantly with half of the group and stuff. So now it's a pretty big group, and everyone is very interesting and cool because they all sort of come from different backgrounds, and some are like almost professional and some are very much amateurs, but we're all contributing. So it's very fun to be around a sort of very random group of people like that. I feel like this production is pretty tricky. So we need to like make a lot of steps every time we rehearse. So it was pretty fun to have like a full weekend where you can really bond over it.
That's great.
That's pretty good. Yeah. So I'm still a little bit like, I don't really had a recharge moment yet. So I feel like that's maybe.
Yes, it's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds similar. Yeah. But yeah, it was super fun. So that's definitely worth it. And then tonight we have our weekly rehearsal again. So I won't get rid of these people for like at least today. So that's very fun.
But it's always fun to bond over those things, right? As when you're with these people that you're practicing with for like an extended amount of time, where it's not just you're coming there for an hour or two, but it's like a whole day affair.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like
it's
eating
really
with
the
them
sort of boot camp kind of feel. Yeah, that's super fun. Yeah.
That's great. Is it like an adaptation of something? Is it like an original project?
It's the original production of Evita, which is, I think it started maybe like 1979 or something. I don't know. I think it's, something like that. So it's been around for a while. And it's pretty like, in that regard, it's also not super modern in its music. Like it's pretty classical and weird melodies. And it's pretty difficult stuff. So it's really nice to sort of get your teeth in it and sort of try to understand what the hell you're supposed to be singing. So that's pretty good. That's a good like challenge, you know?
Solid. Yeah.
Yeah. Very fun.
So for everybody listening, again, welcome. I'm getting the vibe. I don't think we said it explicitly, but I'm getting the vibe that we're running this episode in particular on a little bit of half fuel, a little bit of
we're chilling. Yeah, that's good.
Catching
That's
up
good.
on what we're used to.
That's necessary sometimes. Apparently, this is our recharge.
Yeah. This is coming off of the Father's Day weekend. So happy Father's Day to anybody listening. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. And with that said, let's jump into our first topic. I believe you're starting us off today with a topic that we received last week. Is that correct?
That is true. We already teased it a little bit. Well, not the topic, but the people. My lovely real-time friend, Cherry, she sent us a email last week or a little bit before that even. That was very lovely. And that had a very good new topic for us. And this topic is the topic of plants. I promised that we wouldn't talk about plants anymore, but this is a different situation. Now I'm allowed to do it again because now we can talk about it in a world building kind of style. And it was very funny because Cherry and me were bonding over the fact that her houseplant, like a small mushroom, was growing on it. And then she named it Charlie, but then she felt bad for it because it had a name. But then she still had to remove it because it wasn't good for the plant to have a mushroom growing on it. So we had like a moment of like highs and lows with Charlie the mushroom that she eventually killed off. So that was a nice intro to her email. Yeah. And a nice, I feel like that's where her train of thoughts went when she proposed this topic. She says a lot of cool things in her email. And one of them that I want to sort of start off with, I guess, is the example that she's giving about WALL-E, the musical, I wanted to say. WALL-E, the movie. There we go.
Famously a musical.
I mean,
WALL-E.
the one where they sing and dance. Yeah.
Got it.
And in WALL-E, the plant that's in that movie, very literally, has a lot of significance because WALL-E, as maybe a short recap, is a sort of science fiction thing, right? There's this sort of small little robot that's WALL-E who is cleaning up the planet Earth that's basically unlivable. There are some people, but they live in spaceships, and it's not a very great deal. Earth is basically unlivable. But then at some point, WALL-E finds out that there is a small little plant still there, like a green sprout of something in like an old boot or something, or an old piece of junk. And throughout the movie, we realize how important that tiny little plant is because it shows us that Earth is not completely unlivable after all, because this tiny little plant found a way to sort of make it work, I guess. And that's very interesting. And it made me immediately think of the sort of biblical variant of that, I guess, where after the Ark of Noah, that story where he sends out a dove and then hopes that it comes back with some sort of sign of life. And it does, because it has like a little branch of an olive tree or something in its beak, which is a sort of proof that I guess the earth is safe, or that the earth is able to flower or blossom again, right? And I think that's a theme that I would think of first in thinking of, you know, plants. It's very much about that subject of nature versus the things that we build on it, the sort of society claiming or nature reclaiming. parts of Earth.
Yeah.
And I think in a video essay that I mentioned, I think a while back, it's a very good one. I think it's by the YouTube channel Beyond Ghibli, which is very good. And it talks about the connotation between the movie Princess Mononoke and Breath of the Wild, the Nintendo Switch game. Both very awesome pieces of media. But it really talks also a lot about this idea of nature, overgrown nature, reclaiming old abandoned parts of human society, right? Or civilization. In the very small variant of that, we see that example of WALL-E or of Noah's Ark. That's a very big part of, if we want to talk about plants, right, in a sort of world building, storytelling kind of way. And the other thing that might be interesting to discuss a little bit in a second is how we can start to care for plants or characterize literally plants or see them as a character. Because if we have to care about this tiny little plant, for example, in WALL-E, we need to start to like it for what it means, right?
Yeah.
And how do we personify it? And that's also a way that we can, well, plants is one example of that, but that we can do it with all kinds of inanimate objects. For example, the robot. WALL-E is not living, but we care about it like it's the main character. So there's an interesting dynamic there. So I want to toss this over to you a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, maybe just in general, like, what are your first thoughts on this?
I remember when we talked about this, it's almost like 2 weeks now, like a little over a week before when we received the mail about cherry and her plants. And I think what she sent in was a fantastic example of just personifying something and giving it a character, giving it a personality that I wasn't quite expecting. And it was in a very charming way that we're able to provide these very human traits to something that is pretty close to inanimate in our daily lives.
Yeah.
When we use, but I do want to touch on your first point first. When we use or talk about specifically or highlight plants in our story or our world building, very often we treat plants as the natural order of things, how things should be, right? When things are reclaimed by the earth, when the plants kind of wrap around broken down technologies or abandoned buildings, it's often portrayed as things returning back to how they used to be. Treating plants as like the original inhabitants of the world. And they were here before and they will be again as the eras change, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. I think that there's a lot of talk of like technology changing in the future and sci-fi stuff. And quite often a trope when in these specific genres is that maybe we've gone too far. Maybe we've taken everything a little too high. Maybe we've disregarded what makes our world beautiful in the first place. And plants are often the focal point of coming back to that. I think that's the big theme of WALL-E when you look at everybody in space and they're all like super fat and like they've totally forgotten about what it is it is to live, you know?
Yeah.
This plant represents a return to foundations, a return to a return to nature. And I think, well, it is a bit overplayed to be like, what have humans done wrong? How can we fix this? I think that plants is one of my more favorite ways to teach people a lesson about like respect the earth, respect everything around it. Things like that.
I think maybe if I can shortly intervene
of course
already, because that also makes me wonder what it would mean if we would not see it as a positive thing. You know, like I have to say, I prefer
like a Little Shop of Horrors.
You should explain that one because I haven't seen it.
Don't worry about it.
That stage, the sort of in between where there's still old structures there, but nature starting to overtake is for me the most interesting part. Like when it's fully grown or broken down or, you know, years and years later, I don't really like it as much as that sort of weird moment of balance between the two. So I also wonder, like, what would happen if we would not see nature reclaiming what's theirs as a positive thing?
Is it a good thing? Yeah. Like, I mean, that's a great twist on it.
Yeah, because I think, as you were talking, I also was like, that's really what it always is, that nature is sort of the good guy in that situation, always. And I mean, it feels like a logical step. Of course, it's not for no reason that happens. But I don't know. It's an interesting twist to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're stepping into like prompt space here, but I like this direction. Let's talk about it. So if nature is portrayed when reclaiming the earth from whatever we've done, if they're portrayed as the bad guy in that situation or the antagonist, like, the world is fighting back.
Here they come again. Yeah.
That feels particularly threatening. mostly because we're surrounded by nature.
Yeah, they're like a big deal around.
Yeah, and if plants are mad, golly gosh, that's you're not gonna fare well because that's everywhere, right?
Yep.
I immediately get the visual of like vines climbing over a building, like
I was gonna say
and
like
crushing
the
things.
swamp episodes of Avatar and stuff. Yeah, those are fucking
very
terrifying.
Jumanji. Yeah, if you remember, wow, that movie I loved. I watched so many times. I think there's a scene.
I haven't seen it.
Jumanji.
No,
you haven't seen Jumanji? Oh god, okay? That is going on the recommended list.
Oh,
you have to see.
I'm sorry, sir.
I think there is a new one. I think with it's the one with Jack Black and The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and Kevin Hart.
Do I remember it right that this is a sort of Indiana Jones kind of vibe, or no?
Kind of. The premise of,
okay.
As a quick tangent, the premise of Jumanji is that
very important. Yeah.
Robin Williams is the main character. So he finds this board game right at the start of the story. And it's like old and ancient and weathered. And he wants to play it. He insists on playing it. But as he plays it and as he moves the pieces, the world changes around him. Like he is effectively, with what choices he's making in the game, things are happening and things are appearing that are dangerous and frightful. And the only way to remove them is by beating the game.
Oh,
that's the premise. It's pretty old, but it holds up. I really enjoyed it. But anyway, there's this one scene where I'm pretty sure it's there. There's a car that comes along and it is claimed by a bunch of crunching tree roots where it like surrounds the car,
wild,
pulls it in and then like folds it in half and makes it disappear under the ground. Like that's what I think of when I think of like scary plants. Because you know how it is. Like when people use like nature magic to like entangle people, the roots and the vines will appear from the ground to grab their leg and then like wrap them and things like that. Yeah, nature is scary, mostly because it's everywhere and because it's like it's one of those things that is almost treated like a deitic force where it's beyond our.
Yeah, that's well said.
It's usually beyond our control, beyond our like capabilities to truly master, I guess. Like it's too big, too wide. It's like asking somebody to command the ocean. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Like you can have bits and pieces and stuff, but if you want to fight nature, you probably lose.
You better be prepared. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You know what I also love about nature, if we're talking about like its traits anyway? I like that it's super strong, but it takes forever. Kind of like the way that tree roots can sort of completely destructure a street or something that they're next to. I also wrote down in prep to the topic, what I like about plants is that you never see them moving, but they keep growing all the time. It's like a long-term commitment, like relationship that you're committing to, right? When you have plants.
Oh, real life.
After a year, like your plant's super big, but you've never seen it do that shit, right?
Yeah.
One, it needs you to be patient, right? You can't like rush it because it doesn't work like that. And another thing is that you don't see it become so strong. So it's very subtly becoming a force.
Right.
And I think that's also what I like about that's why I thought about it. The thing that you were saying, like entangling or roots, like slowly, or quicksand, for example. Another cool thing that's not plants, but it's still like that same kind of vibe. Like before you realize it, it's too late and it's too strong. And I think that's super sneaky and evil. That's a very good evil kind of premise.
Yeah. If there was ever like a motif to plants and greenery, like in stories and world building, it's growth, right? It's growing bigger, stronger, taller. It is a slowly whelming force that like you have if it's antagonizing you gotta be ready for it with like fire and chainsaws and you gotta pull it down. Actually that's really interesting because in a lot of card games, I'm thinking specifically of Magic the Gathering, if anybody plays that. I don't really play it, but I played a little bit.
I've heard about it. Yeah,
the green decks usually lean like naturey. The green decks is a color of card. It's like a specific category of cards that lean in a specific direction. And the motif of green cards is growth. It's ramping up. You start off very small and very weak, but you build up resources very, very quickly. The goal is to ramp up to this incredibly powerful, big statted, very heavy hitting monster or thing right at the very end. Whether that be like a giant animal or a treant or something like very heavy-handed, I guess.
Sure,
The idea that you're building up very slowly, but very particularly and carefully to a powerful wrecking ball of power. a powerful power. That is not what I meant to say, but it's fine. We'll roll with it.
I like it. Powerful power. There we go.
A powerful power. But yeah, plants are at the same time very small and very weak in their portrayal, and also very grand and very overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think the two sides of that, and the space in between is a great place to tell a story.
I was going to say, like, the feel of the promise of like becoming big and important and terrifying is very cool to me. That's also why I love houseplants. There are these compilations. As I've explained earlier, I'm becoming like a plant obsessed person.
Becoming? I've always
yeah.
gotten the impression you've been.
No, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I can't even, that's true. Anyway, because I am, apparently, there's these compilations of people that show common houseplants, like, I don't know all of the English names, like, I don't know, but there's like a lot of vining plants. And then they show comparisons of like, this is how it grows in your house and this is how it grows in the wild. And then they're like 5 times as long and 5 times as wide. And their stems are like as big as your arm. And you're like, what the hell? And it's very cool. And I always have to think of this whenever because houseplants, they just all are kind of baby plants of what it actually was in nature.
Right.
And that constant idea of like, this could be like a giant forest if I wanted it to or had the space for it. That's very cool to me and scary in a good way.
There's that one meme with the weak dog, strong dog. I don't know if that's
no idea.
But basically, weak dog on the side is the houseplant. It's in like a little pot, and it's like, oh, mother, please give me food.
Wait, yeah,
give me water. And the other side is like, I break through concrete to survive.
Yeah. Yep. No, I know this one. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, for all the plant nerds out there, there's like a lot of tips and tricks and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, you have to like moisture. You have to like have like moisture in the air, or you have to like spray them every day for their leaves to be shiny. And then I'm like, that's not how nature works. Like, why would they need that? But then because it's inside, you need to like create good conditions for them to even like try to grow properly, right?
Yes.
So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, it's a very funny thing to me that houseplants are just very tiny monster plants.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Love that. As kind of to wrap up the topic, plants are often personified to be given these human traits that we can relate to, mostly because there is like this aspect of growth and development that is inherent to what they are, you know, something that thrives and survives and is often can ramp up to be something too big to control.
Yeah.
It's a force, truly the force of nature that we continue to learn more about.
One,
and it's the force. It's not a force.
The one and only. Yeah.
Mother Nature herself. Come on down, you know.
By the way, I know one more thing that's scary and cool about plants is the fact that I've learned that plants are so hard to kill if you want it. Like almost every part of a plant can be like regrowing into something new. If it has like one part of a root, then it can become a whole new plant. And I never realized that until after like multiple plants of me almost died and then suddenly didn't. And I was like, wait, it feels very much like that thing where you can cut off a lizard's tail and then it regrows. That feels like super weird. Like you have nothing and then suddenly it becomes a thing again and it's totally fine. And I think that's also very scary. Somebody should make like an animate nature plant. I wouldn't.
There's got to be some out there.
I mean, I think of like the Mario ones where you have like the flesh eating, like the chompers. I don't know what they're called, but that doesn't count. They're still in pots.
The piranha plants, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh well, yeah.
There's got to be a movie out there, but if anyone like listening knows, of
give us some plant
movie
movies.
Where the plants are the enemies,
or books, also fine. Yeah,
sure, absolutely,
nice.
Or podcasts,
or podcasts,
audiobooks.
Any media is welcome. Yes,
comics,
yes. Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Thanks for sending that in, Cherry. Super fun.
Yeah, thank you, Cherry.
And hopefully you have gained some plant insight.
If you guys have any topics you'd like us to cover, you can always send it in at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. That's our main form of contact.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
All right.
Okay, Dante, what do you have?
We're bouncing to our next topic. Chose to take it a little bit light today, and something a little bit broad. And I knew today that we were talking about plants. So I felt like, as of the modern era, I don't think it was associated way back when, but nowadays, there's often something that follows the word plants. And that, in particular, is zombies.
Oh.
If you've ever heard of the titular game, Plants versus Zombies, pitted against each other in 4-lane combat.
In a game of death. Yeah.
In a game of planters. Today we're going to talk about zombies. Now I'll put a disclaimer. I'm not the biggest zombie survivor movie person. Usually when I walk into a zombie movie, it's coincidental.
I was going to say so I tried zombies, but I wasn't really good at surviving them. So yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I actually took a 90-day zombie program.
There was a boot camp version. Yeah.
It really wasn't doing well for my skin or the pallor of my
like it's some sort of
complexion.
Detox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, zombie detox. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Brain detox. Yeah. Uh-huh. No, bad idea.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
So if we're speaking of overwhelming forces, if we're speaking of things that grow a little bit out of hand, I feel like zombies fit that particular.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Aesthetic. Yeah. And for me, I don't usually walk into a movie knowing it's about zombies. Sometimes I'll walk into it and eventually the problem is zombies. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's a zombie movie now.
Are you then sad about it?
No, I feel like I'm pretty indifferent about zombies.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't lean forwards or against zombies.
Because I always have a little bit of disdain is a big word, but always a bit of a meh feeling about zombies. That's since fair. The trend sort of happened where the classics would be like Pride and Prejudice and zombies or something. That's a thing that happened at some point in the book community, I think, and maybe also in movies where somebody added zombies to it. And I was like, what? Why?
People love
Who
zombies.
wants this? What's the target audience for this? And I really disliked the trend so much that it roughed off a little bit on the zombie genre in general. I always have to be very convinced to go watch something with zombies in it.
Yeah, that's very funny. That reminds me of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
The movie that came out a while back.
The same fucking shit. Yeah, I really don't like it. They really have to come from a good side to make that work for me.
Yeah. We'll get to it, but there are fantastic zombie movies. But I do want to lay down the foundational work for people who really do enjoy it. There is something that they love, and we're going to dig into that today. Now, when we talk about zombies, we have to talk about kind of their anatomy. Zombies are dead things. If not dead things, and things that should be dead. Right. There's always kind of the mess of the skin and face and appearance. Usually they look like they're half put together. Arms are falling off. Eyes are out of their sockets. Teeth are missing. There's a distance there. There's kind of a limp to their walk. Or if not a limp to their walk, a really fast running. That's very, very scary.
Yeah, that's some deep shit. Yeah.
Zombies are threatening in appearance. You can kind of tell that there's something wrong about them. You can kind of tell that there's something dangerous about them. And if they're zombies, then that means you can be zombies, right? The effect of a zombie is something that can spread. It's something that is inherently dangerous to the living, whether in just killing you or turning you into a zombie. What turns you into a zombie? Well, we can talk about what's often described as an apocalypse. There's never one zombie, right? It's never the one zombie. It's usually multiple zombies.
If only it worked that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't be so scary, I guess, but...
Yeah, zombies are kind of the foot soldiers of the undead army. They just kind of fill up space, and they're very durable. They're very threatening. The cause of zombism, or zombism, is that a word?
Zombism?
Zombism. Who knows? It's usually some sort of plague or virus that spread and was released onto the world. It's a curse, a magical curse that starts with one person and quickly spreads to others, like reanimation and all that. There's a necromancer involved that is reviving the forces of the dead for their bidding. Sometimes it's from outer space. Outer space is scary. A comet falling to Earth, releasing radiation that transforms everybody into these mindless droning beings.
Yeah.
Right. Zombism happens quickly or all at once, or it's slow. It affects one person, and like a pandemic, spreads from one person to the next. One becomes 10, becomes 100, becomes 1,000, and it grows and grows and grows. The idea of an unstoppable, unknown force that has not been fixed, has not been decoded, has not been remedied or given an antidote, that's scary, right? We see that of course, we see that in the era today, like in the COVID era, where we worry about something that we do not understand and cannot contain. Zombies is a great way to visualize that. It's a great way to see that and see the immediate terror and not deny for years and years and years. Like, you see a zombie, it's a problem, right? It's never,
it's quite literal. Yeah.
It's never you see a zombie and it's like, oh, that's nice.
He's maybe just, not having his day.
He's just having a bad day. Yeah. You know what, Charlie? He'll get over it tomorrow.
Let's
just pop that eye back into the socket and worry about that later. Pat him on the head, send him on his way. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really fix that limp in your leg kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the foundations of zombies, right? That's how we've come to understand zombies in particular.
Yeah. So it's corruption. It's the sort of force of the group being scary. It's the fact that you can become one too. Yeah, that's all pretty terrifying.
Right. So I guess I kind of want to bounce it to you. I don't know if you're a zombie, if you're a horror flick watcher or survivor flick person, but what do you kind of think is the main appeal of these kind of stories where you have this slowly growing threat, where you have this very scary, very spooky thing coming at you that's not just one person, but many?
Yeah.
Like, what's kind of the appeal to that or the initial like impression of that?
Yeah, good question. I feel like it very much depends on the story, whether I like it or not. As I said, zombies have to be like pretty good for me to start watching it. But in general, like there are good zombie things out there too. So, you know, both sides of the coin are there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. I think for me, a very interesting aspect of this sort of trope or genre, I guess, is the fact that it starts off very subtle. There's the first case that is rare at that point still.
Right.
It was a person once, so perhaps it's a side character or it's a well-known person in the media in this story, or it's someone who just feels a little sick, or someone who just, I don't know, his arm got I don't know where that's going. Nope. not leaving it there. Yeah,
Who
something
knows?
happened to the arm. So that's an interesting start of things, right? Like it's very small. I think in that case, it's kind of similar to the plant thing that we talked about. Like the progression of it, I like the beginning where it's just a little snippet of something and it doesn't seem important at all. Or it just seems like, oh, I have a cold, or oh, I don't have my day. And the fact that then slowly the characters or the world, I guess, starts to realize that this is a serious threat. At that point, it's already becoming bigger than them. And I think it's a very good scary moment. The sort of terror of the situation starts to sort of be realized by the people that are having to deal with it.
Right.
And the sort of hopelessness of it is also very interesting and very, you know, horror appropriate, or I guess apocalypse appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I really like. And also, I think in general, I really like when characters that used to be good characters are corrupted in some way, or are, you know, when you once trusted them but can't do that anymore, but then still have this weird dynamic between people. I also really love that. If we sort of follow the classic trope of like they're becoming more and more and more and the characters are trying to battle it and it doesn't work and, you know, dramatic ending.
Right.
Near that ending, there are so many of them. There's this force. They're not super good, like evil, big, bad enemies, right? They're a bit slow. They feel like they're sleeping, or they're like not really there with their mind. They're not that smart. It's not an ideal or super hard enemy to face on their own. But in this horde of thousands of these sort of corrupted beings, it scares the shit out of you and you can't escape it, because the more they pass on the virus or whatever it is, right, in the story, the more this horde grows and it becomes part of the world almost, and it's unescapable. And that transition from like, oh, are you feeling well, versus like where we end up and the last part of this complex story gripping into each other and, you know, absolutely hopelessness, never being able to escape it, not being able to trust anyone, all that stuff, right? That's a big climb, and a very satisfying climb if done well. Yeah.
It's those moments of tension in the middle where it's like, this was once containable, but thanks to like the hubris of man, I guess. Usually that's how it goes.
Yeah, kind of.
This has grown too far out of control for us to contain. One of the very poignant moments of zombie movies is when something that was containable, like to like one or a dozen people, hits that catalyst. It's like a zombie steps into a crowd of people, or the virus is released into the water. Like that sinking feeling where it is now out of our control. It is transcended our ability to contain.
And even when that's very literal, like the ones you were saying, like, oh, the virus entering the water or a zombie in a market square. That's a very literal moment of like, okay, stone in my chest, this is over now. But even if it's not, if it's a very subtle thing that's happening, you know, not in the forefront of the story, it's interesting too, because then you have all these moments of realization happening at different times. It depends on the character, how hopeful they are perhaps, or how optimistic they are as a character, whether or not this moment will take place early in the arc, I guess, or almost at the end, where they're still gripping on. They're still trying so hard, right? And if that happens at different moments in a group of people that is your main characters, that's a lot of tension. if someone is trying to only save themselves because it wouldn't work anyway and there's no saving this, and another character is like, how dare you sacrifice what we've been trying to work on so hard, like we can still do this, and why are you giving up now? You know, that's a lot of character tension as well.
And that's one of the biggest clinchers that we have to talk about in zombie movies. The zombies are a force. They're scary, they're terrifying, they're unstoppable. Yes. But they are a point of tension that is basically constant and rising. So the conflict that it persists in the movie, the climaxes, is not the zombies. It's of the people left, right? Of the people that remain. They're the ones who have to go through the tension of solving the problem. Who gets what resource? Who choose who survives the situation? Who is most valuable? Who do we save? Who do we protect? And who's going to go out there and be in danger?
Yeah.
Those discussion points, that tension between characters where you have to, it goes back to human nature. Is it self-preservation, or is it for the greater good that you work for? Right? These characters are pressed in this moment, and they're forced to address their very deep-seated values, right? As human beings.
I was going to say, the thing that I love about that also, that's very present in zombie or apocalypse kind of movies, is that sort of life-threatening, life and death situation that you have to handle as a sort of human being still used to, like, you know, social rules or like civil discussions, right? It doesn't really work like that if you talk about life or death. That's the same thing why good war movies are really good, because it has this same sort of absolute deep-rooted humanness that you have to tackle, I guess, in these conversations. What I like about this idea or trope is, you know, when you're at your last breath, or when it's the last straw of, you know, civil discussions left, different characters are going to react differently because they have different base instincts. It becomes very animalistic. And there's also lots of movies about that, by the way. I think there's one by Louis Buñuel that I mentioned a while back as well, where people are stuck in a room and over the movie, they get like more and more bestial and rude and crazy because they can't get out. And it becomes sort of this human nature story, you know, like they're almost becoming animals at the end. There's nothing left of social cues, and that's all kind of out of the window. Or the Lord of the Flies one, right? Where people have to survive and then return to these sort of instincts of like prehistoric times almost.
Yeah.
And that happens too in these very dramatic life and death stories. Yeah, I really like that as well. It forces your characters to go deep and understand whether or not they are cowards, or whether or not they are able to sacrifice something or themselves, or, you know, you name it.
It's a look into human nature. It's kind of a commentary and a deconstruction of social constructs, right? The hierarchy that we usually address, like people who are rich and famous and powerful, all of that is out the window when it comes to like apocalypses, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Everything that gives you value as a human being, quote unquote, like what you've come to own or possess or stand for, all of that is gone, right?
It doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah.
It's very interesting to kind of twist that and be like, oh, without all of this, who are you? Like, boil you down to just a man, and what have you become, right? I think I'd be remiss to talk about this topic and not talk about what I believe to be one of the greatest zombie movies ever, Train to Busan. It's a fantastic movie where, of course, the virus slowly spreads and everybody is trying to escape. The Train to Busan is the setting where everybody's trying to get on this train and leave to a place that is safer.
Oh, that's cool. I've never heard of this.
Oh, you got go right below Jumanji. I'm putting
Check.
Train to Busan.
Okay. I'll make like a playlist. Yeah. Okay.
This is a proper like must-watch zombie movie. I believe this is truly fantastic, and I sometimes think that the trope is over and done with way too many times, but this is just like chef's kiss, perfect. I could not find something wrong with this movie. And I know some people will be like, oh, it wasn't the best zombie movie. You haven't watched enough zombie movies. I'm like, I don't need to. I've seen Train to Busan. You know, it's the one.
The one and only. I'm done. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
A truly fantastic movie where it talks about human value. Like, who is more precious? Who do we save? And it comes down to like, is it the women and children? Is it the people who have the money and resources and influence to save the world? Or is it just a regular dude? Like, who survives this? We have to decide, we have to choose, and moving forward, like that is something we have to consider while running for our lives from tons and tons of zombies, right?
Love that.
Inner conflict versus outer conflict.
That sounds very awesome.
Very cool.
So is the train the sort of last stop or the last way of escape?
It's kind of like the cities are falling to ruin, and to get to a place that is protected by like the government, the train is one of the few ways to get out of the city. And it's kind of coincidental that he's like on it initially, but it quickly becomes a way of salvation, and protecting it is of highest priority.
Oh, cool. I also love trains in stories. So this is a good sell. Yeah. Okay. I'll give this a go. Yeah.
That goes right to the top of the list. That is a fantastic movie. But yeah, zombies, really cool. Not always my cup of tea, but the transcending tropes that keep pulling people back in and keep people watching this specific subgenre is the power behind it, the impact, the spreading, the danger, the tension, the conflicts between man and the boiling down of human value to its barest bones, right? That's the appeal. That's what's so interesting about this. That's a good
summary. Yeah, that's definitely what it's about.
Yeah.
I have to say, now that we talk about it, I do see the brighter sides of zombie movies again. So I'm a bit more into this now. Yeah. You would almost forget if you never watch any. But okay. I'll start with the one you were mentioning. That sounds good.
Yeah. Not every movie does it perfectly, but you know.
I mean, there's Pride and Prejudice and zombies, so you know.
Yeah. Shout outs to that.
I guess that's no.
Oh no. Okay. No, we're not recommending that.
No, I disagree. No.
We recommend something every episode, and that is not a recommendation.
Watch like a cool zombie movie. Yeah. Okay.
Watch that. Anyway,
we fixed it.
Let's bounce into the last thing. Yeah, let's jump into the last thing of our podcast. We always end this podcast with an improvised prompt. One of us gives a prompt to the other, and we just got to make it work. So, what is the prompt for today?
Yes, today it's on me, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so continuing the conversation about how to care for inanimate or non-human things, I thought it would be interesting to make a character that is not alive, that starts off as perhaps an object or a piece of food or something, anything, right, that we start caring for. Let's just try to make this a character exercise.
I immediately think of like Brave Little Toaster. Do you remember that?
Oh, what's this again? This rings a bell like deep in my brain.
It's like it's a bunch of like house appliances that travel the world, and I think they're looking for somebody.
Wait, is this a series?
I think it's a movie. Pretty sure it's a movie.
Oh, wow.
But
it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Okay, well, that's literally that. Yeah.
But I kind of don't want to go with like a house appliance. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe that feels like too obvious, perhaps.
Yeah, let's see. You know what? Let's keep it real simple, and we'll start with this. We'll roll with this.
Okay.
Pun intended. Let's start with a pet rock. You know pet rocks.
Yeah.
Do you know pet rocks? Is that a thing? No?
I mean, I know it from Over the Garden Wall.
Okay, cool.
If you've seen that series.
I have not, no.
Okay, well, it's a spoiler, but it's fine because it's cute. One of the main characters, they're walking in a forest and he finds a rock, and then I think he calls it like a very fancy name, and he writes like a smiley face on it, and then it's his new favorite rock, and it's very cute. And then I learned the concept of pet rocks. So, there you go.
Yeah, let's start with that. This is
but that's a good one, yeah.
Here, we're gonna paint this. This is a Toy Story situation where things come to life when people aren't around.
Okay.
You know what? Let's go a little deeper. Let's place this in the Toy Story universe, where toys are given an animacy or an animation when not in the presence of their owners. Technically, they can be alive while people are alive. It's not set in stone that they have to die when people come around. But in a world that defines this as like toys, right? The pet rock is just a rock. But the moment it's labeled as a pet rock, introduced into the home, welcomed in, a face is drawn on it, and there's like a little bow on its head.
Yeah,
right?
That's cute. Oh, I love that. Yeah,
they decorate with like a tiny little pink bow around the head. Really happy, smiley face. It is considered a toy, and by that merit, is given life.
Gains its life. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's adorable. Okay. Yeah, awesome.
So this is now like a Disney Pixar movie. The pet rock is now the main character. What is the story arc of this pet rock? Like, what do they do? My first inkling is they kind of have to prove to themselves that they are a children's toy. I think that is something that doesn't come inherent to their identity. It's like a hero's journey sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like pet rocks are pretty low on the ladder of children's toys. There's the super fancy, like full sets of like carnival Legos and I don't know, whatever, these like giant things and princess castles and the princesses themselves and all the other like things. And then you have the pet rock, which is just as much as of a children's toy. Like people can play with the pet rock. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah,
It's not like a princess castle. It's not like the full Playmobil, the haunted house set or something of Playmobil, right? It's a different feeling. So this pet rock perhaps struggles a little bit with like appreciating his own powers.
Self-esteem is definitely an issue here. It's like, oh, but I'm not really a toy. Aw, but one day I can find someone who treats me like the toy I really am, you know?
Yeah.
Give him like a little lisp and the voice of like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And obviously his best friend is another toy that's not really a toy, which is the box that the toy comes in. You know, it's just a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And it's given life because there's one kid who just really, really likes the box. Completely forgot about the G.I. Joe set that sits inside.
Oh, yeah.
And both of these guys are on a grand quest to, you know, I think maybe the goal here is like get a commercial about them that truly validates themselves as like sellable toys, right?
What if the G.I. Joe box is the sort of roadmap to this story? Like, what if the seller or something on that box, or the, I don't know, ingredients or whatever is on toy boxes, what if that's like, this was a real toy? Like, what if we sort of retrace its steps and then see where the pet rocks end up?
We gotta find G.I. Joe. We gotta find him. He knows all the answers, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's the
oh my God, yes.
King of all boys' toys, the G.I. Joe. He can tell us what we need to do.
He knows how to be a real toy. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, boss, here we go. We're gonna travel to, looks like Ontario, Canada, where G.I. Joe is from. All right.
Yes. And then during their travel, the pet rock sees all kinds of rocks that are not pet rocks and that are just in nature. And he's like, is this the real way to go?
Yeah.
I am better than this, am I not?
They talked to like a skipping rock at the bottom of a lake that was a toy for just 5 seconds before thrown away. And it's like, you can't trust these kids. They'll never treat you right. Once you're a toy, you're garbage to them. They'll outgrow you and things like that.
But our pet rock still has hope.
Yeah.
Until he finds G.I. Joe, he will not be deceived by these other fake pet rocks in nature that are just normal rocks.
Gosh. There's like a Pinocchio callback. I want to be a real toy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this is also pretty like gruesome in a way. Like what if he like passes by like when you have like lots of small rocks on the ground, like pathing or something.
Right.
Is this basically like a graveyard
and
where
none of them
alive
talk,
pet rock?
right.
Yeah, it's so sad, but they look like him. That's pretty hard. That's pretty hardcore.
Like, oh, G.I. Joe box, I don't think I can do this. You can do this, Pebble. I believe in you. You're not like the other Pebbles. But all Pebbles can be toys, you know?
Oh, yeah. Of course it's called Pebble. I was not ready for this lisp as a character trait, but it's got to be this way now. There's no other way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The story of the pet rock and his journey to meet G.I. Joe to validate himself. And he realizes that you don't have to be manufactured to be a toy. Toys are... I don't know the tag. Quick, this is the tagline of the movie. We got to think of the tagline of the movie. What's the moral of the story here?
Rock your identity.
Anything can be a friend. Wait, that might not be the best. Okay, it's fine. We're rolling with it.
Yeah, let's go. This is the way prop works. And then we should probably wrap this up, but I want to know what this conversation is between G.I. Joe when they finally find him. Is this like a Wizard of Oz kind of thing where it's not as magical and godlike as made it to be? What does G.I. Joe give them as advice?
Got it. G.I. Joe is this grizzled. He has like injuries in his plastic and dents of where he was played with. This G.I. Joe has traveled the world giving speeches and stuff.
Yeah.
But he looks at this pebble, right? Really looks into that marker drawn face and says, you know what? What makes you more special than all the toys out there? He gestures to those supermarket aisles and he says, there's thousands of me. Hundreds of thousands of G.I. Joes just like me. But you, there's no one exactly like you. Go forth, Pebble, and be the unique toy you've always been meant to be.
Be the Pebble you've always wanted to be.
Yeah. Roll on, Pebble, roll on. Cue the swelling music. Someone call Hans Zimmer in for this. Yeah. We'll get a couple of tracks from Lin-Manuel Miranda to, give him a little rap on the way of his true journey.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah. And that is our pitch. Disney Pixar.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening. We're going to ship this hopefully 2025. Yeah.
Concept? Yes.
Yeah, right after Toy Story 5.
If you want more rock-related character inspiration, go watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. It has a rock scene.
Oh, fantastic.
And I almost cried.
Okay.
And it's about rocks.
All right.
It was a ride. Yeah.
All right.
Not spoiling anything. Go watch it.
Taking
It's
anything
good.
away from this podcast, watch Jumanji, watch Train to Busan, and watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. Those are our recommendations. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This ended up definitely a little off. We walked into this a little bit off kilter, but I think we found our footing somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, we make it work. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Cherry
Rocks
once
and
again.
plants. You heard it here first. Awesome.
Thank you for sending in your prompt. And always, if you guys have any topics you'd like us to talk about, if you feel so inclined, feel free to email us at our email. And as you continue to build out these worlds, whether it be fighting the forces of nature or fending off a zombie apocalypse, always remember, deep beyond that, much more importantly, of course, your rivers are wrong.
Yeah. After all that, they're still pretty wrong.
Just one incorrect
Maybe we need
river.
to discuss this at some point, but not today.
Not today.
Tune in next time.
Next time. See ya.
Cool. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes that you'd like to hear us cover, feel free to contact us at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. Our intro and outro music is written by Maarten Schellekens. Thanks for that. And again, thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you at the next one.